Hello, good people. It's Rob Lee. Compromised truth are lies disguised as truth. The gospel is to be taught and told, not bought and sold. Modern churches are hell bent on supporting the state of Israel. Oh, how they love the state of Israel. They scream, shout, they must support Israel. These same blind and spiritually dead people have very little love for Jesus Christ. They say, when called out on it, that God commanded them to love Israel, and they quote Genesis 12:3. Well, anybody who's read Genesis 12:3 knows that the Bible and the Almighty Father is referring to Abraham. Has nothing to do with the state of Israel, has nothing to do with Jews. Has to do with the people called Israel, and it started with a man named Abraham. And he was to go on and he was to have a son named Isaac, and Isaac was to have a son named Jacob, and Jacob was to have his name changed to Israel, man ruling with the Almighty Creator. Now, I know what the Bible says far better than the majority of the churchites do. On their best day, most of them could never keep up with me. Now, if they were to hear that comment, they would say, "Oh, you're arrogant, you're puffed up with pride," to which I reply, I'm being honest. And this is something that you bullshitters and you churchgoers know very little about. Many of these churchgoers, they walk in sheer ignorance, and yes, many in fear. They have become the biggest cowards walking this earth. And I love to tell them this constantly. The modern churchgoers are the biggest chicken shits walking this earth right now today. Suppose that I live next door to you and seen that your house was on fire, but failed to warn you. Let me ask you, what kind of person would that make me? Could I honestly say that I'm a child of the Almighty Father? So what if I ran next door to your home, I banged on the door screaming, get out, the house is going to burn down. Now, would you get out as fast as possible, or would you ask me to prove it? Well, sadly, in our modern world, people do not heed warnings very well at all. So, therefore, in our scenario, I'm pleading with you to get out from the house because it's going to burn down, and you and your family are going to die a horrible death. I continue shouting and pleading with you to get out before it's too late. Then I hear the reply of the typical brainwashed, deluded American. I didn't see it on TV. My pastor, my priest, my rabbi, my spiritual guru didn't tell me my house was on fire. You see, if it were 1950 in most any town USA, the family would quickly run from the home and graciously thank the person who warned them. Then the same family, in all probability, would give thanks to the Almighty Creator for saving their lives. However, that is not the world that we live in any longer. The severe moral decay that has corrupted this country began in the church. If you want to look at how the United Kingdom, Scandinavia, the United States, Canada, how they were taken over, the church, but especially in the United States. In the United States, Christians, so-called Christians, churchgoers, have allowed the devil and his children to remove the Almighty Father and his Christ from the church. Now, I am warning you. I am standing outside of your house shouting, screaming, and begging you to get out of your house. Your house is going to burn down. In fact, it's on fire now. The Almighty Father has been sending messages to his people for a long time to come out of the modern whore of Babylon church. Of all the tools the evil of this world has used to destroy individuals, society, and the family, none has been more effective than the false church. In the past 100 years, the pace has quickened by monumental leaps. The majority of modern churches are nothing but a $2 whorehouse full of prostitutes and pimps. It does not matter if it's a Catholic or Protestant, both serve the same master. In fact, churchianity right now has about 20,000 different flavors of what they call this denomination, that denomination. There's only one denomination. You're either of the flock of Jesus Christ or you're not. How did we reach this state of ignorance, complacency, naivete, and disrespect of the Almighty Father? Well, folks, contrary to popular belief, there were actually churches, although sporadic, there were churches that existed that served the Father through his Jesus Christ. The church was truly a place for the children of the kingdom to gather, fellowship, and worship. Communities gathered together. They made important decisions, and people spoke freely about all things at the church. This was a place where people would gather to do the right thing. Church actually had a meaning. In fact, towns, cities, and communities were built around the church. The holy word of our Father was the most important thing to the church. The Almighty Father chose teachers to lead his flock and to help his children understand his word. Churchgoers gave what they could afford to give to the children, to the widows, to those sick and those in need. There was a time, folks, that pastors did not become rich, nor was anything remotely preached as the prosperity gospel. Now, not counting the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church has always remained the same. When the Babylonians founded the Catholic Church in about 400 AD, Nothing's changed for them. They've been the same monster for 1,600 years. But there were always splinter groups, people that broke off from the Catholic Church. Now, I'm talking about the small pockets of churches throughout this world who have truly loved and served their Father through Jesus the Christ. And these churches, folks, going back to the very beginning. Remember the apostles, the days after Jesus Christ was murdered, this is what they said. They were secretly meeting for fear of the Jews. Nothing has changed. Whether it be the Jews, the Muslims, the pagans, it doesn't matter. True Christians always had to hide. Nothing's changed, folks. Nothing has changed. The Almighty Father loves His children, and He will call them by name away from the modern 501c3 church. The vast majority of internet churches and websites are equally as evil. They're just as bad as if you walk into a church. Clicking on a website that serves what the church does, it's no different than going to the church. The modern church has become a playground. It's an amusement park. It's a place for people to get together and they amuse themselves. They talk about things that have no bearing on their salvation. There's no glory being given to Jesus Christ. One of the most dangerous places for any man, woman, or child is inside of a 501c3 church. Church has become it's a den of thieves. It's a serpent's nest. And some of the fun and games at modern church are uncontrollable laughing, convulsing, mocking, fake healings, singing songs about glorifying Satan, and having absolutely no fear of the Almighty Father and desiring every lust of this world. The star of all modern churches, be it Catholic or any other church denomination, is money and the six-pointed star of Remphan. This naivete, this ignorance, and this lustful desire for wealth and entertainment have ushered in a new religion. It is a false church and full of lies. It has made the modern churchgoer the equivalent of a false religion. And this is the idea. They worship a false creator and they worship everything that is evil. They just don't know it. And many of them, quite frankly, they don't care. Church has become a gathering place for those who neither believe nor love the Father and His Son. The few that do believe, they're lukewarm. They're false Christians, and they have become, as of right now, the vast majority of believers in Jesus Christ in the United States. They're lukewarm. They're false Christians, and this is where we are really at. These people are always chasing false doctrines, entertainment, ear-tickling words, circus acts, superstitions, omens, folklore, and the constant seeking of money. If you will just sow a seed, the Almighty Father will give you some money. If it's that easy, why wouldn't the pastor take all his money, plant all that money in the ground, and he should grow a damn tree all the way to heaven? Why would he need your money? The modern 501c3 churches destroy you spiritually and benefit from you financially. Most folks struggle to pay their bills, and their pastors become multi-millionaires on the back of your ignorance and your naivete. They hypnotize the spiritually weak, and they do it with lies while under the cloak of so-called love. They always use the word love. They love you. It's all about love. These so-called Christians exalt their false teachers above Jesus Christ, and then they wonder why they never receive a blessing. A true blessing from the Almighty Father is not in the form of money. It's about His love, and you will know it when He loves you. The majority of churchgoers will quickly defend their serpent pastor or the Pope, but when it comes to standing up for the one true Creator and His beloved Son, they all of a sudden become, as I've said, the biggest cowards walking this earth are the people that walk into the churches. They are the biggest chicken shits bar none. Nobody has a yellow streak like the modern churchgoer. Half of the truth, folks, is far more dangerous than a complete lie. You see, when the devil tells a complete lie, the receiver of the lie has a far greater chance of seeing through the lie. Demons in our world say half-truths. The only half-truth that opens up all truths is Jesus Christ. You see, once you come to Jesus Christ, when you start hearing the half-truths, you will know that it's bullshit. It's a lie. You can do more harm from the inside of a church than you can from the outside. The modern church is destroying our Father's word, and the Almighty Father is allowing it to happen. Our Father is allowing this world to be divided because it always has been. His children are here for a reason, and His children will be called out of the modern Babylonian church. This prophecy is in the book of Revelation. Yahweh calls out His people in the last days. He tells them to come out of her. Churchgoers do not follow Jesus Christ. They follow their clergy and their own lust. The day is fast approaching when these same churchgoers are going to answer for their worshiping of Osteen, the Pope, Oprah Winfrey, Kenneth Copeland, and all the rest. I have learned that the Almighty Father can be incredibly gentle and loving beyond our comprehension, and I have learned that the Almighty Father will break you in ways that will make you cry and beg for mercy. And what's even worse is when you cry and beg for mercy and he basically tells you, I ain't hearing you. Doesn't matter. Cry all you want, scream all you want, I'm not hearing you. We are currently being divided, people, and this division is coming from our Almighty Father himself, through Jesus Christ. You don't need church people. What you need is Jesus Christ. That's what the Father gave you. He gave you his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. So when things get bad for you, you don't need a church. You need Jesus Christ and prayer. If you have Jesus Christ, you will never, ever be alone, ever. May the Father bless you all.